There are always going to be people and situations in life that are triggering. The world is full of and people who cannot tolerate their own emotional experience. There are things that you need to stop doing immediately if you want to get out of a narcissistic relationship. This is really important to understand when in the context of narcissism. They're always going to want to feed their ego. And you have to accept that as fact and then use your leverage to give them what they want. Because when you supply them with something, what happens? You go into the cycle where they're nice to you, so you can get what you want. When somebody is in a positive or a nasty mood, that energy gets all over you. And if we're around somebody else who's stressful or weird or hostile, do you know what happens? Your brain releases yet another chemical. This one's called cortisol. And cortisol is the stress hormone. And so you immediately not only sense that something's off with this person, but you also have this chemical physiological response. I think that's why we often, label people's behavior as toxic or icky or gross, because it feels that way to you. I think we know common sense-wise that people's moods and energy are contagious, but there's a new study by scientists at Oxford and Birmingham universities that show that bad moods, they're not only contagious, they're more infectious than good moods. On top of all of this, your brain has something called mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are amazing because what they do is in nanoseconds, they can process and register any human being's facial expression, body language, tone of voice. It's absolutely unbelievable. And what ends up happening is your mirror neurons make you start to mirror the same emotions as the people around you. This is why when you're watching a movie and that sort of sappy music comes on, or somebody in the movie starts to cry, your mirror neurons are what are triggering you to start welling up too. And they also work for the positive. If you look at somebody eye to eye and you hold eye contact and you flash a huge toothy smile, it takes less than 5 seconds for the mirror neurons and the person who you are looking at and smiling at to kick in, and that person will not be able to help themselves but smile back. And this is important for you to know because it works both for the good, you can catch really good energy, and when it comes to bad energy, that's easier to catch. And so it's critical in these moments that you protect your energy. And there's a breath technique that you can use called 4-7-8 to signal the relaxation response in your body to protect your energy. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 7, then out for 8. That the 8 part is the most important, because when you breathe out for longer than you breathed in, it sends a signal to your nervous system that it's okay to relax. And the 4-7-8 breathing technique will start the relaxation response in your body. And when you do the 4-7-8 breath to trigger a relaxation response inside yourself, you take control. If you protect your energy, you can take proactive steps to call people out on their behavior. Because there was a new study by the Workforce Institute at UKG that found that 69% of people say that their managers had the same level of impact on their mental health as their partner or spouse at home. Negative people at work, particularly a manager, really bad for your mental health because you can't fix them. There are 2 types of out there. There are the jerks that are just entitled, and they treat people like crap because they've always treated people like crap. You know people like this. They're rude to waiters. They're short with other people. They're full of themselves. They have a tone to their voice. They're super pompous. We hate these kind of people. The kind of people that are rude for no reason other than because this is how they are. And this is how they treat people. And I hate people like this. And you know what else I can't stand? I can't stand the fact that they tend to bully us, right? And we just give in. And so there's that type of, and then there's the second type where they're just under pressure and they can't tolerate the discomfort that they feel. I call these kind of people emotionally immature. And I use the word immature because they throw tantrums. They're like a child who is so frustrated, so they throw themselves on the floor. And they're immature because they do not have a mature or responsible way of tolerating emotional stress. And so in these situations at work, you are allowed to call people out on this behavior. There's nothing wrong with picking up the phone or walking down the hall and saying, hey, is something going on with you? Because I don't know if you know how the tone of this email comes across, but it doesn't feel good. And is there something you want to tell me? Or are you unaware that this is like how you're speaking to people? That is the way that you can call somebody out. And obviously, if you have somebody that is engaging in this consistently, document it, go to HR, because you shouldn't be under a barrage of that kind of abusive language or demeaning language or that sort of like really unnecessary pressure. That's not why you're in your job. If you've just got somebody who's like grumpy or kind of standoffish, you want to know how you flip this? I love this strategy. You shower curmudgeons with compliments. That's what you do. The reason why this works is there's something in the world that is called the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity is very simple. If you do something nice for me, I feel like I should do something nice for you. And this works with curmudgeons. I swear to goodness it does. You do nice for me, I'll do nice for you. And this works with curmudgeons at work. Complimenting somebody on their work or on their nails, or don't be creepy about it. But if you can find something, hey, you did a really good job with that client. Even a curmudgeon takes notice. And over time, you know what they do? The law of reciprocity kicks back in and they start complimenting you back. You see, at the end of the day, whether people grew up with parents who were and so they model behavior of being pompous and better than other people, or they're just emotionally immature and they can't tolerate their own emotions, and that's why they throw tantrums. At the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing. We just want to know that we matter. We want to know that we're doing a good job. We want to know that somebody appreciates that we're there. We want somebody to understand that we're doing our best and we're stressed out and we're trying to get the coffee out as fast as we can. That's what we want. We want a little bit of respect, a little bit of kindness. And when you start to dial that up and you give it out with radical generosity, it comes back to you in incredible ways. I love this saying that small minds talk about people and big minds talk about ideas. And gossiping is all around us. In fact, look at the industry and the way that news and that celebrity talk has morphed, and reality shows. It's a huge industry that is dominated by gossip. And gossip is also at work. If you work in a big company, the average emailer sends about 112 emailers every day in a corporate job. But 1 out of every 7 of those messages is categorized as gossip. You're not sending something that's work-related. You're writing an email to somebody else about somebody else at work. So there's science here for why gossiping is bad for you. When you gossip and engage in it, which means you're listening to it, you're dishing it out, you're indulging in it, your adrenaline and cortisol, that stress hormone, it spikes. And it also increases when you retell painful stories of being hurt or wronged by somebody who is gossiping about you. You literally put yourself in this fight or flight state. I used to gripe about other people. I'd spin myself into a top, like being all upset about other people and talking about people that weren't there. And I would get on a power kick by tearing somebody else down, right? The energy of gossiping, it's not cool. Here's the wake-up moment for all of us. Here's the strategy. Only talk about people who are present in the room with you. Don't talk about anybody who's not present. Because here's the other thing you need to understand about gossiping. If they're doing it with you, they'll do it about you when you're not there. Because people gossip as a way to bond with other people. It's called triangulation. Narcissists do this in particular. By talking about other people in a derogatory way, the people that are gossiping are trying to build a bond with you. That means the second you're not there, they will trash you in order to build a bond with other people. And when you really get that as a truth, because it is a truth, that people who gossip with you gossip about you, that will change how you look at all your relationships. So many of you have experienced emotional abuse from somebody who's narcissistic. I think it can be really confusing to identify it because it's kind of sinister. I mean, when somebody hits you, you know it's wrong. But when somebody is, I didn't say that, I never mean that, raging at you, putting you on edge, making you feel like you're the one going crazy, it's all emotional. And so you start to question yourself. That anybody of any age, anywhere in the 194 countries where this show is syndicated, can understand it. Just like you cannot negotiate something with a 8-year-old, the same way that you would negotiate with a fully functioning adult, you need to put someone who's got narcissistic tendencies into the camp of negotiating with an 8-year-old, because you're not dealing with a fully functioning, rational human being with fully developed emotional centers in the brain and the ability to regulate themselves or even understand what they're doing. They are stuck in this loop themselves as an 8-year-old emotionally, and they're not doing anything to you, so to speak. This is how they move through every single relationship. And they are not going to be attracted to somebody who is strong and in their power because you're not buying into the love bombing. They just think that you're in love. They just think that we should get married. They just think that we are, soulmates. And they're not even aware that this is how they operate. It's unconscious, which makes it almost more dangerous. This is something that happens neurologically during childhood. That's why there's so much denial on the part of the narcissist. They're not aware. And so this is really important to understand when in the context of narcissism, because the praise and the love bombing and the attention from the narcissist, it's totally unpredictable. Like one minute you're the center of the world and they love you and you're this and you're that and the other thing. And then boom, the wind changes. You see the love bombing. Then you see the inconsistent behavior. Then you try to appeal to her rationally, but then she's back into the love bombing. And it's just like gambling or any other addiction. Because it's so inconsistent, you literally get addicted to the person because you're waiting for that next round of the love bombing to come. But then there's this phase of a narcissistic relationship, this cycle that you can get in, and you label this the discard phase, where they've withdrawn, the lies are coming out, the truth is starting to get revealed. There are things that you need to stop doing immediately if you want to get out of a narcissistic relationship. You have to have a vision of what you're looking for and that you want to get out of the relationship. Consciously and emotionally distant makes you feel so empowered because you're no longer in it. You're now the one manipulating it, and they don't even know. And again, you have to have this going in or you're going to be spun around like a top. The next step is, again, this has to do with that narcissistic supply. They're always going to want to feed their ego. This never ends. You've learned this, and you have to accept that as fact and then use your leverage to give them what they want, even if it makes you vomit later. And you're doing this, you're giving them the supply, the attention, the praise, the this, the that. You're giving them that. Why? So you can get what you want. And the reason why this is important is because when you supply them with something, what happens? You go into the cycle where they're nice to you. And lots of leverage, by the way, comes down to giving them what they want, but also documenting what they say, what they do, and how many times you say something and how many times you do something. And why do you need the documentation, especially if you're in sort of a confrontational kind of thing? And you don't have to be in court for this, by the way. This might be that you constantly argue with your parents about who's hosting the holidays. Keep a record. Keep a record so you have proof.